Hello everyone, I just started this channel. If you like the story, please like and comment. I'll post new stories every week, and if not, tell me in the comments how I can improve.
Sometimes God's plan doesn't make sense right away. You might be cleaning floors or working late, wondering, why me? But God is working, even in silence. Today's story is proof of that divine truth. It's about a janitor, a man of quiet faith, who started with nothing and trusted God fully. He ended up blessing thousands, all because he never stopped believing that God had a plan. This is the true story of Ronald Read, Faju, a man who believed in patience and divine timing. Ronald Read lived in a small town in Vermont, working simple jobs with a humble heart. He wasn't rich or famous. He worked at a gas station and later as a janitor at JCPenney. Every morning, before starting his shift, Ron would whisper a prayer, "Lord, help me do my work well." He believed that even the smallest tasks mattered deeply when done with faith and gratitude. Ron never complained about his life. Instead, he thanked God for every single blessing. Every dollar he earned, he saw as a gift from God, a seed meant to be planted wisely. After work, Ron walked to the library. While others rested, he spent his evenings learning quietly. He read books about business, saving, and investing, searching for wisdom with a faithful heart. He didn't have a teacher or much money, but he trusted that God would guide him. There's a verse in the Bible that says, "If any of you lacks wisdom, ask God, who gives generously." James 1:5 says, "If any of you lacks wisdom, ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault." Ron lived that verse every day. He prayed for understanding, and God gave him insight and peace. Slowly, he began investing small amounts in strong, honest American companies he had studied at night. He trusted that patience, not luck, would bring results, and he left every outcome to God. And for decades, Ron worked quietly. No fancy clothes, no vacations, no luxury cars, just steady faith. Each morning, he thanked God for another chance to serve and to do simple things well. When others mocked his simple life, he smiled and said, "God's blessings don't always show outside." And he stayed humble, generous, and consistent, trusting that God's timing was always better than his own. While the world chased quick success, Ron built a quiet legacy of patience and gratitude. For him, faith was wealth and obedience was profit. God's favor was the only treasure he sought. When people asked why he never spent his money, he'd laugh and say, "I already am. I'm building something that lasts. I'm building something that lasts." Then one morning in 2014, Ronald Read passed away peacefully at the age of 92. The town gathered to remember him, most believing he had lived and died with very little. But when his will was opened, everyone was stunned. Ron had quietly built a fortune worth millions. Ronald Read had quietly built a fortune worth over $8 million through patience and faith. And he donated most of it to his local hospital and library, the same library where he once read. His gift shocked everyone, but those who knew his faith said it was God working through him. The man who mopped floors had changed his entire community through quiet obedience and prayer. Newspapers called it a miracle, but Ron would have smiled and said, "It wasn't me, it was God." Ronald Read's life reminds us that small beginnings often lead to the greatest blessings. God saw his effort when no one else did, and in his perfect time, he lifted Ron's life up. Faith and patience are never wasted. Every prayer, every effort builds toward God's miracle. People realized true wealth isn't measured by possessions, but by the faith that drives your purpose. Ronald Read lived his whole life as proof that God's timing is never wrong, only perfect. The same hands that once swept floors built a legacy that now shines for generations. And his story teaches us that no act doomed in faith is ever too small for God to notice. When we work with faith, God multiplies even our smallest seeds into mighty blessings. That's the real miracle, not money, but what God can do through a faithful, humble heart. Ronald Read proved that when you put your trust in God, He can turn ordinary into extraordinary. Ronald Read's life teaches us that true success isn't about wealth. It's about obedience and trust in God's plan. He didn't chase money or recognition. He chased meaning, peace, and purpose rooted in faith. God blessed the work of his hands because his heart was right, humble, and full of gratitude. The Bible says, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord. Colossians 3:23. Ron lived that verse every single day, and his quiet legacy still speaks louder than words. When you put God first, He turns your ordinary work into extraordinary purpose and blessing. And people were speechless when they learned his story. That quiet faith can move entire communities. They realized wealth isn't about what you show. It's about what you grow with patience and purpose. Ron proved ordinary people can live extraordinary lives if they believe in God's timing. He didn't chase trends or validation. He worked quietly and let time reveal God's plan. That's the real American dream, not fast money, but lasting impact through faith and kindness. So if you ever feel unseen or think your effort is too small, remember Ronald Read, a janitor who started with nothing and built a legacy of faith worth far more than millions. It's not about where you start, it's about trusting God every single day of the journey. Greatness isn't loud. Sometimes it's a quiet man sweeping floors with a faithful heart. So when life feels heavy and you wonder if God sees your effort off, and remember this story. God sees you. He knows your heart. Every quiet moment of faith is building something greater. Even when nothing seems to move, God is writing something beautiful in your story. Ronald Read didn't just build wealth, he built faith. And through that faith, God worked miracles. So keep going, keep believing. God is never late. He's preparing your blessing right now. When your heart stays faithful, no season is wasted. Every test becomes testimony in God's hands. The same God who multiplied Ronald Read's quiet effort will multiply your faith and work too. Trust His process. Keep sowing. One day, you'll see how He was building your miracle all along. Because God turns ordinary faith into extraordinary stories, just like Ronald Read's. Trust God, work hard, stay humble. Let success make the noise while your faith builds quietly. Because greatness isn't loud. Sometimes it's a man sweeping floors with purpose in his soul. God sees what you're doing, even when no one else claps. And He will reward your faith. Every quiet effort, every prayer, every moment of patience is seen by heaven. If this story inspired you, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs hope today. Because you never know Who might be the next quiet miracle God is preparing right now?